Catch RCN SportsTalk now, anywhere, anytime.
Dave, I want to start with you because seriously, we've been trying to get you on for 4 years, and every year it either snows when you're supposed to be here, or you have a wrestling match that snows, and it gets pushed off to another date. And I blame Joe for that because he claims to have all this power here in the Lehigh Valley. But before we talk about your team, though, I got to ask you, 5-time Pennsylvania Coach of the Year, NWCA National Coach of the Year 2007, NHCCA National Coach of the Year 2001, over 400 victories. I could go on and on with all of your honors. From an individual standpoint, what are some of the honors and some of the things that you've accumulated that you're most proud of?
Well, that's a tough one. That's a very good question. I don't know if I have a very good answer because I wouldn't probably have enough time. As I look back, I mean, I've had just a great opportunity to coach some just great kids, and I think those are the things you appreciate more. When you're young and you're just starting out, it's all about the wins and that. But as you grow as a coach and mature, I think as a person, you start to realize it is about the relationships. And so I've just had some really, really special moments. We had a couple great ones last year at the end of our year. You know, no one probably would have expected us to have anybody even in the finals. We ended up having 2 guys in the finals. Tyson Klump won states. I think it's as far as I know, I guess this is a great honor. He had the most losses of any state champion in Pennsylvania history.
Yeah.
So one time you say it's not a great thing to have. I think it's a great, it is a great honor because it shows how far you go, you know, the things that you persevere through and the challenges you go. Another just a great thing, it's just been it has nothing to do with me, it's just a tribute to the kids. Since I've been at Nazareth, and I'll probably jinx this now, if you believed in jinxes, which I don't. But since I've been there, so this is my 13th year coaching, we have had a state finalist every year. So there's been, that's amazing that there's been somebody in the finals. So, but we had a Zach Coran who was there for 4 years. We had Tim Darling who was there for 3 years. You know, we just have had those individuals, and you know, we had 2 more last year, which every year we say, well, this is it. We're not, okay, streak's over, but somehow these guys come through. And so
you know, you asked the wrong question of this guy, because this guy's one of the most humble guys I know.
Well, I've been waiting 4 years to ask him that
honestly,
question.
I mean that, you know, that's an attribute that I wish more coaches had. So
or hosts, too. Show hosts.
Yeah, right. So that's a tough question to ask Steve, because he is a very, very humble guy.
Yeah, and I want to ask you about your assistant coaches before I forget, too, because I know Adam wrestled under Ray Nonamaker, the late, great Ray Nonamaker, for many years. Could you just talk a little bit about your staff?
Yeah, so I have 3 guys that coach with me up at the high school level. So it's Adam Colombo, Derek Deitch, and Joe Provini. I coached Derek. So Derek was a senior my first year I came to Nazareth. And so those 3 all Nazareth people, born and raised, wrestled at Nazareth. I'm the only coach on the staff that's not from Nazareth. So I'm a Northwestern Pennsylvania guy. So they're the ones that are holding it together. I'm just trying not to mess up too much there. And but they are just great, great guys that which is a great attribute. And it's a funny thing, you know, when we talk about like a staff and things, that's actually my number 1 priority or requirement as a coach on my staff is loyalty. And you know, I think in any organization that's just a huge thing. And I've seen some disasters occur when that, and nobody is more loyal than those guys, not only to our wrestling program and me, but Nazareth as a whole.
And you've had success at 3 different stops too, and you've gone to Wilson and Easton too, which I think is interesting.
One of the things I wanted to say too is, and I don't know if you realize this, Chris, but you've been the source of a lot of guys who then became head coaches.
Yeah,
there's a few guys. One of them at Easton who
well,
you know, these are guys that you've tutored.
Yeah, well, Steve Powell and I, we were actually we were hired at exactly the same time. We both were just coming out of college. We both were phys ed teachers at phys ed majors. Both hired as phys ed teachers as coaches. The head coach at the time was a guy named Bob Zarbatani. Had a great 10-year reign there. And he up and left, bought a hotel in Lake Tahoe, Nevada, and I'm about 22 years old and hired as the head wrestling coach at Easton. I thought I knew a lot and knew absolutely nothing about coaching. But Steve was actually the head junior high coach the year before that. So then, of course, he came up on the staff, and another coach, Dan Kuhn. So it was 3 young guys. We just wrestled the crap out of those kids every day. We wrestled as much as they did, and it was just 3 guys having fun. But it was a really great time. And then I retired temporarily from coaching after 7 years, and Steve took over and has been there since then. So, of course, we wrestled against Steve's team last night, and we sat in his office for about an hour, more than an hour, just chatting. And I think he's been coaching now for about 40. It's been about 40 years, close to 40 years.
Well, speaking of Easton, I want to ask you and the players about that. Big match last night. We had it on RCN. It was a competitive match, but you guys pulled it out.
Now, Chris, you got to get this straight. You don't call wrestlers players. They're wrestlers.
You're cutting into their time, by the way.
Thought I'd correct that right now.
Okay.
So
We'll start with these. You've interrupted every single question.
All my
I've
wrestling
had so
buddies are
far.
going to tell me tomorrow. Tell Chris not to call them players.
All right. So we'll start. Well, how about we ask the wrestlers? Your thoughts on Easton last night and the big win?
I just think we came out ready to wrestle. Last year we looked flat, weren't ready to go, but this year came out, good environment to wrestle in. We're ready to go.
Yeah. Brock, how about you?
The stadium was packed. It was just a great place to wrestle, and that's how wrestling matches should be, like lined up like that. How it used to be, like back when our parents used to wrestle. It used to always be every match packed, no matter what. And it's kind of declined since then, but that last night just showed like a huge step.
There's so many things that conflict, and people have time all over the place. But you guys, the fact that you're wrestling in that kind of an environment, you got 2 great teams with a lot of good wrestlers, 2 great coaches. I mean, that all contributes to that. You know, it's much to be admired, really, from both programs. Okay.
Well, apart from the 2 great coaches, there's at least we know one. Steve Powell's had just a tremendous thing. Yeah. For me, the Easton is just, I think it's arguably one of, if not the best, rivalry. And I know fans in Nazareth that do not own any red apparel. They will not wear red because Easton's red, and that's how much that they're serious about
There's
that.
not a red car in Nazareth.
Exactly.
Not a red car.
So we really look forward to it. It was really good to see last night that our guys came out and just, they wrestled. My son, of course, he wrestled for me, coached with us, and that was his kind of assessment of the whole thing, that our guys just came out and just wrestled. And sometimes it's not easy to do in a kind of a pressure environment like that.
Sammy, I want to ask you about the 138 weight class, though, because that is loaded. And I hear everyone I talk to, you're the guy there. You're the number 1 guy there. But you got Evan Fidelbus, I believe, who's dropped down. You got people from Emmaus and Parkland and Penn Argyl and all these other schools that are saying, boy, that's going to be a fascinating weight class. What are your thoughts on the 138 weight class, and what have you done that everyone is saying you're still the number 1 guy in that class?
Just look at everyone the same, ready to wrestle. When I just go out, wrestle my best, no matter who I'm wrestling.
Do you take a peek at the rankings and what people are saying in the chat rooms and blogs, and do you get an extra surge when you surge up to number 1?
No, not really.
Dave has a huge smile on your face there. Have you seen a history of something different?
Well, Sam knows everybody, all right? So if you would ask, he's one of those guys, if you would ask him a question about a wrestler, he would know where he's from, what his record is, what weight he's at, what weight he's going to.
That's good, yeah.
He would know it all, and that is his passion. He knows all about it. He's very humble. He was very, very good last year, and he took huge steps during the year last year. And sometimes once you see someone that really grows like that as an athlete, you say, well, maybe they're kind of plateauing out. Well, he's taken another huge jump this year, which is just I'm amazed when I see him compete. I'm just really amazed at his level of, and he's not the only one that's taken huge jumps on our team, but he really does amaze me to watch him wrestle.
Brock, you're kind of in the same situation at 145. The latest couple rankings I've seen in the last few weeks, you're number 1, and there's kids from Becca and Deerhoff and Bangor and Easton and schools all over the place that people are saying these are very competitive wrestlers, and yet you're still number 1. So how do you take that approach to be so successful?
Well, yeah, I did a lot of work over the summer because last year I didn't perform to what I thought I could have, and Well, I did beat the Becca kid, Maloney, and I had a lot of tough matches with him last year, so that was a good match for me.
Yeah. Now, Brock, you lost, I think it was 2-1 in the tournament last weekend, but what's it like going down? Because I know you always schedule tournaments and you want to go out and try to find the very best, not just in the Lehigh Valley, but in the nation sometimes. What was it like, and what was the quality of competition at that tournament you were at last weekend?
It was good. The kid I wrestled in the finals I lost to, I had a good match with him. I mean, I think I still could have done better. I don't think I wrestled my best too, but.
Sammy, what's your thoughts on the tournament? How'd you do last week, and what's it like playing tough teams outside the Lehigh Valley?
It's good. Coach Roll gets us to all these tournaments to find us the best guys. He wants us to get the best matches, so we're ready for March. We know a Holiday Classic title, it doesn't mean much, so we just keep moving forward, keep progressing as a team.
How do you, when you look at schedule, we were talking a little bit about putting a schedule together, and you have the EPC, which is creating some issues too. So how do you go about putting a schedule together and kind of judging, you want to have the high level of competition, but you don't want to, have a monster schedule each and every year too?
So this is my job. So my job is to find somebody that will beat every one of my guys. So I want them to get at least one loss during the year. So if they haven't wrestled somebody good enough to beat them, I failed as a coach. So I want to make sure that I get them a competition, because sometimes that can be a burden to carry with you, that undefeated record. You saw what the Patriots a few years ago, you almost could see that coming. It's something about being undefeated. It's something that's in the back of your mind. It becomes, rather than you're going after, you start to protect some things. So I figured I'll get these guys somebody that can beat them. That takes that off the table right from the get-go. And it's always good to go against somebody that's, not that they are going to beat you, but really have
challenge.
We talk them. Your job is to wrestle as many guys that you can that could beat you, because that now you're going to rise up to that level. You come up to them.
Oh, can I say something?
Go ahead.
I was going to say some of these teams like Nazareth and Easton and Bethlehem Catholic and Northampton Parkland, some of the really top level teams. The best wrestling some of these guys see is in the wrestling room. I mean, they go against each other, and a lot of times these really successful programs, they get such competition in the wrestling room that it makes the matches easy. The teams that go out and really don't have that much competition in the wrestling room, but they go out and blow everybody away, and then they get into a tournament against some of these other guys, and it's a disaster. So I think the wrestling room itself is a lot of the tough competition they see. I'm sure of that.
Yeah, there's no question. And we kind of have guys, and it's kind of neat when you have, we have a good group of guys, and once they're a certain level, you now can wrestle more guys in your wrestling room. Normally you have to keep them really close weight-wise, just because you don't want to overpower one or the other. But, like I see Sam today wrestling with Travis Stefanik, that's 22 pounds above his weight class, and go really quite a bit bigger. But they're good enough, they're skilled enough that they can handle that. So it's great. Yeah, you're exactly right. Having that competition in the wrestling room is enormous.
Do you two guys square off against each other?
Yeah. Yep.
Who's the better wrestler?
Boy, they are humble, these guys.
Travis and Tyson, I think, want to weigh in on that conversation too. But I mean, do you like? That's a good point though that Joe mentions about wrestling against each other. Do you look at that challenge, and do you kind of give advice to some of your teammates too when you wrestle each other, and do you help each other out that way?
We just got a good chemistry with the team. We'll give pointers here and there to anyone, but we got our 106-pounder wrestling with 38-pounder, and just everybody can go. You got a partner no matter what.
Yeah.
Somebody to push you and make you better a wrestler.
One of the best things when I was an AD, and we used to host a lot of the tournaments at Liberty, was neat to see after districts you got into the regionals, and you saw kids from different schools would come into the wrestling room. They'd all practice and work out together. So you had kids from Easton and Northampton and Nazareth coming in and wrestling with Liberty kids, and Liberty kids would travel to Freedom. And I think that's where you get a lot of that too later in the year. That's where that camaraderie among the local kids starts to really build. Do you see that too, Steve?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. in the district tournament, you're fighting tooth and
Right,
nail with
right.
the other teams. But once you get to that next weekend, now you're bringing the other districts in. Yeah, you're really pulling for each other, and yeah, you do get a lot of schools. Now, I prefer myself not to travel for practice. I like a little bit of control. I'm a little bit of a control freak, I guess. But I do like when other teams come in and practice with us, which we do. So I like to be able to control, so injury prevention at that point is my number one priority. Right. You don't want to get someone hurt. But it's really fun bringing, because these guys do wrestle each other every day for 4 months. And it's really fun to have somebody come in, somebody else different and new, and it provides you an additional challenge too. So it's really helpful.
By the way, I'm just going to point this out because you picked on me. You just called him Steve, by the way, Steve Crow.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All right, it's time for thumbs up, thumbs down. It's where our panelists identify someone in the world of sports for doing something extraordinarily well or singling out someone for doing something not so good. And I'll start it off. Thumbs up for the Northampton boys basketball team. Boy, they lost some people to graduation. They lost some people for other reasons this year. They didn't mope. They didn't complain. They went out. They had a very tough month-and-a-half schedule, and they posted 2 very impressive wins last week, and they're inching closer to getting up to 500 and making another run for the district playoffs. So congratulations to Coach Stampone and the Northampton boys basketball team. Joe or Steve or whoever else you are now?
Thumbs up to Harold Fairclaw, who just was appointed the head football coach at Emmaus High School, and great appointment, and he'll do a nice job there.
All right. Coach Kroll?
I have a thumbs up to one of my favorite, all my kids are favorite, but we have a wrestler on our team that's just, you'd have to say he's the favorite, I think probably all the wrestlers, is Matt Gilbride, who's just a great guy. He came out, and I just got to know him last year. He's a junior now, and he's had some physical problems, but now he just got cleared to start working out again. But he is just one of those guys on our team that everybody just loves, and he works really, really hard. And if he wasn't on our team, everybody would really miss him. So yeah, Matt Gilbride.
All right, Sammy, how about you?
Give a thumbs up to my good friend Chance Marsteller. He's going through some tough times right now, and I just wish for the best for him and hope he gets back on track.
Very good. And Brock?
I'll give my thumbs up to my cousin Tyler Tarsi, who wrestles for Harvard. He just beat the 3-time state finalist and 1-time state champion T.C. Warner from Cumberland Valley by major decision.
Great. All right, well, Brock and Sammy, thanks so much for joining us. Our special guests are Dave Kroll, the Nazareth head wrestling coach, and we're very happy to be joined by Tyson Klump and Travis Stefanik for our next 2 segments here on RCN Sports Talk. Guys, thanks for coming in, putting up with Joe and myself here between the commercial breaks. Before we talk wrestling, Travis, I got to ask you, because you had a great football season, made the playoffs this year, despite what some people predicted for you this year.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, we talked about that during the commercial break, too. But, Travis, just real quick, what was football season like? You surprised a lot of people this year, and you did, and everyone who does this, I think, is the hardest thing in all of high school sports, is you play football, 6-8 months, you bulk up, you eat everything in the refrigerator, you play on a Saturday, and then Monday you get into wrestling mode, and you got to cut weight and be very disciplined with yourself. So what was that transition like?
It was kind of hard at first. I definitely to eat a lot during football season. I got to bulk up, getting hit by those big 285-pound linemen. But now I'm in wrestling season. I lost a good amount of weight, get to where I'm at right now. So it was just a real fun season playing for our coach Falzone.
Yeah, was it fun? And what's that week like when you go from football into wrestling mode? Because it's tough on a lot of athletes, but I think especially for wrestling.
Yeah, it was real tough. Coach Kroll actually gave me a week off after football season and let me just take a break and recover a little, and then I got back at it the week after.
And Tyson, I want to ask you, you've had some good rivalries, and again, Travis, we can say this about you. You guys are both ranked number 1, I think, last I saw on LehighValleyLive.com. But there's some great wrestlers in your weight class. You have Klebold from Northampton, who you won't wrestle. Joe would probably like to comment on that. Luke Warner, there's kids from Parkland and Becca. How do you see this weight class? And you've had wins over some of those big names, too. So your thoughts on the season so far?
The season's been great. There's a lot of tough kids at 113. And at the end of the year, I'm dropping to 106. So it should be fun.
Yeah. Are you looking forward to that when you have to go down?
It's going to be tough, but I'll manage to get through it.
Yeah, it's in the best interest, though, right?
A lot of guys in the 106-pound class right now are just shivering because they know he's coming down.
Travis, what's it like for you? You've been wrestling at, what, 160, I think?
Yes.
Yeah, so talk a little bit about your season.
Yeah, it's a real good weight class. I'm going to end up dropping to 152 at the end of the season, and I'm just looking forward to the end of the season right now.
Well, look forward to dropping weight like that now, because I'm telling you now, 20 years from now, you're not dropping that kind of weight that quick. I'm telling you. It doesn't work that way.
A couple questions here. Well, first of all, we got to get Andy Weaver on here. So Andy has a question for the coach. How does each match work as far as which bout to start at? Good question
So-
from Andy.
It's a good question. You actually do that. Usually the opposing coach picks out of a hat. So the referee that does the weigh-ins comes in with whatever sometimes it'll be poker chips with a different weight class in each one in a bag, and you just reach in and you pull it out. So last night was kind of an interesting match. So we had two of the country's top wrestlers at the same weight class. But what's happened over the years is, and I will defend coaches completely, in trying to win the dual meet, a lot of times these good matchups don't occur. You avoid, you're trying to win. You don't want your best guy to lose, and one of these guys are going to lose. So Steve Powell and I talked at the beginning of the week, and we said, we're just missing out on a lot of these good matchups. I mean, there's not a greater matchup this year than to have Sammy Sasso and Evan Fidelibus, who Evan's one of my son's best friends. They've known each other since they've been born, and Evan has a toothbrush at our house. So that's how good it is. So I've known him since he was little. But to have those two guys be able to get matched up, so we just kind of said we're going to match them up and wrestle. And
Good for you, yeah.
It was luckily, I say luckily in quotes, luckily it was the last match of the night, and that's it. But anyway, you pick. At the beginning of the year, it's a random draw who starts first.
And a lot of times they do that now, because in the old days, by the time they get to the 180, 185 and heavyweight, people were gone. Matches were decided. Now you may have the best matchups taking place late, and it might be the 106-pounder.
Yeah, and last night nobody left that gym. Not one person left the gym. So it was just a great environment and a great matchup of two great wrestlers.
Yeah. All right, let's squeeze in one more email here. Let's go to Mike in Bethlehem. He has an interesting question, because I was going to ask who is the most challenging wrestler for you in a little bit. But Mike's question here is, who is your favorite person to wrestle against? So Travis and Tyson, do you have a favorite wrestler? I don't know how you want to take that, or
Favorite wrestler?
someone you like to go up against. Could be someone on your own team you like to square off in practice.
Probably Stefanik. I wrestle Stefanik in the room sometimes. It's fun going at him. He's a good 60 pounds heavier, but I still go at him.
Travis, how about you? And who would win a match between the two of you?
Oh, me, of course.
I don't know about that one. I got to take it easy on him a little bit. I really like going with Sasso a lot. He really pushes me hard, even though he's a little lighter than me. He's just real tough. He's real strong. So it gives me a good competition in the room.
You'll notice they pick guys on their own team.
Sure.
That's what that wrestling room, when they're all good, that's what happens, some of their best bouts.
Yeah. What have been some of your favorite team matches so far? I know you had Liberty. We were talking about who you have, and I know I looked at the schedule before we came on, but it's hard to follow this year for the EPC, who you wrestle and who you don't. You don't have Northampton, but who are some of the teams you've wrestled against?
We wrestled against Liberty was our first match. That was a fun match. But I don't think we wrestled our best. We could have wrestled better. But it's the first match. It is what it is. Who else did we wrestle?
Well, our schedule is it's not, I wouldn't say weak this year, just they changed up the whole.
Yeah, it's hard to.
So, the Easton match was really fun. The small stands, everyone was packed in there. It got so loud. It was just a really fun match to
And
be
the
at.
tournaments have to be fun, because you wrestle a lot of good wrestlers. I mean, most of the teams that get in these tournaments you guys go in are decent wrestlers.
Yeah, it's
Am I
definitely.
right on that?
Yeah, yes.
We wrestle some of the, like the Beast of the East, arguably the best, one of the best certainly ones. And we went, for the first year, we went to the King of the Mountain tournament, which had 33 teams there. So that really upped our schedule. And the Bethlehem Holiday Classic is a great one. And then the Virginia Duels is always good competition. It's probably our favorite thing to do as a team and as fans, because it's just a fan-friendly atmosphere. And you get to see college teams wrestle in the same, right next door, right in the mat next to you. So yeah, we do some fun things, but we do get kids.
And you get to show off your wares to people from all around the country that
yeah.
normally you might not, not get to see.
Absolutely.
And they don't get to see you.
That's right. And so we had a Virginia team, a New Jersey team, a Maryland team, and a Pennsylvania team was our four competition, the four opponents down in Virginia. So.
All right.